Okay, so I'm going to talk about both homicides, starting with the one overnight. Um, so Saturday night at 11:59, just before midnight, officers received a shots fired call in the 4400 block of Hilton Avenue Northeast. That's in the Northeast Area Command. 911 received calls both from neighbors and from people who were inside the home at the time. At this house, there was a house party going on. We understand that someone was turning 18 at the time, so there was a lot of kind of late teenagers to like 20 years of age. And at some point, within minutes of dispatching the call, actually within 5 minutes, officers responded pretty quickly to the scene. They were able to get to the house, and a lot of people were fleeing the area at the time, which always makes it difficult with these party type shootings. But they were able to get in the house, and they found three adult males who were deceased. Two of them were 18 years old, and one was 20 years old. There was a female who had been hid behind a couch, but still got struck in the upper thigh area. The bullet went through and through. She was treated at the hospital and has already been released. So officers have interviewed the female at the scene. There's in excess of 25 people that officers are still trying to interview, so we're going to hold off on naming any of the victims at this point, and we're still trying to reach next of kin, I think, for one of the victims. Officers are still looking for an identity of the shooter, or exactly everyone who was involved. It does appear that there were possibly two groups of maybe two individuals each or three who shot at each other at the time of this incident. Some kind of confrontation ensued. It sounds like most everybody knew each other at the party, and maybe a couple of people showed up uninvited through social media, which is what we see oftentimes with these house parties. But it does sound like maybe party goers knew who they were. A confrontation ensued. Someone pushed another one to the floor, and at some point they started firing shots. Dozens of shots were fired. Officers have collected casings. We do believe more than one gun was involved, and guns have been recovered as well. Officers worked throughout the night on collecting evidence, identifying everyone who was there, and particularly those who left the scene. So they're working all day today. We brought in a new crew of detectives and investigators who are still trying to reach out to anyone else who was at the party and may have information. So interviews are still being conducted at this time. At this point, we don't know if there's an outstanding offender. There may very well be, and we're trying to determine that right now. If there's more information, we'll put that out later. But just to recap, three adult males, 218, 120, were all found deceased at the scene, shot with gunshot wounds, and one female, she was a juvenile, I think she was 17 years old, injured, shot in the leg, and released from the hospital since then. The only other thing I want to add on that particular homicide is we've seen this over and over again with these house parties. It does appear that the owner wasn't there at the time, and perhaps did not know about the party. It sounds like it was just planning a party for someone who was 18th birthday. Yet we do know that this was advertised on social media through Snapchat, through Instagram, text message, that sort of thing, and as typically happens, word spreads throughout the community, and oftentimes there's individuals who show up who are armed, and when they're asked to leave, and confrontations ensue. We don't know if exactly that's what happened, but we do know there was a confrontation. Several people were armed with guns, and we've seen a tragic outcome, and it's really, it's almost getting tiring kind of repeating the same message for all of these. We put out some videos on social media. We'll rebroadcast them just to make awareness. We have been concerned with, this doesn't appear to be a graduation party, but we have been concerned with the end of school year and graduation, so we have been on a little bit more high alert looking for parties and that sort of thing. So we can't predict everyone. It doesn't appear that there was a call for service prior to this last night. We're looking at the history of this house to see if they've had previous incidents, but for right now, this stands alone as a party where people were armed and shots fired. Any questions on that one?
So just to recap the ages, it was all two 18-year-olds that were shot and killed, a 20-year-old that was killed, and the fourth victim?
The female was 17. Yeah. And then there was a female who was turning 18. It's her birthday party. She didn't live at that home. I think someone was having the party for her. But officers are interviewing her, as well as various parents too. I think people have come forth with information. We put out the video evidence portal, if you guys don't mind highlighting that, so if people do have video, they can upload that very easily. And I haven't checked this afternoon to see if they've gotten videos or not, but they're looking for that.
Is there any suspects that police are thinking, or is there anybody in question at the moment for this?
Well, they've gotten several names. They're looking at names. They're looking through social media. They're doing everything that detectives often do. But the key is interviewing all of the people who were there and see who know. We're pretty sure that everybody knew everyone else at this party, but yeah, we do know that people did flee in several directions and trying to figure out their involvement at this point.
How many people were at this party?
I don't know. I was told, at least 25 people they were trying to interview today, in addition to those who stuck around and who they interviewed. Neighbors were understandably very concerned and upset about the shooting. I know one neighbor went and helped and tried to perform CPR. So, it all happened very quickly, and we're still working on the investigation.
Hey, Gilbert, sorry, I ran up
No problem.
late, but time and place.
So it happened last night. 12:59 is when the first call went to 911. Officers arrived probably within about 5 minutes of being dispatched. And the address is in the 4409, what was it again? Hilton Avenue Northeast. So kind of south of Montgomery, I think, east of Carlisle.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move.
Yeah.
Any
And there's
more?
legit, people are dead. How
Three
many?
people, 3 males
Three
are
deceased.
deceased. 2 of them are 18, 2 are 20, 1 to 20, 18, and 20.
18,
And then the
18,
female was
20.
17. She was taken to the hospital, treated for a gunshot wound, released.
So, just to be clear, you have suspect names, but nobody is in custody.
Well, I don't know that there's a suspect name. I mean, there's names that they're being mentioned of who is involved. Nobody's in custody. We're trying to figure out the identities of everyone involved. So, skip ahead this morning to the second homicide. Officers were called about 7:30, I want to say, in the Valley Area Command to 206 Clemente Avenue Northwest, which is between 2nd and 4th Street in the near North Valley. Officers were called out on a domestic violence incident in which they believe the female was being held, or was reported possibly being held against her will. Officers arrived at the home, made contact at the door. Initially, they definitely heard gunshots. Initially, the officers thought that the gunfire was being directed at them. The individual went back in the house, and that's when they heard the gunshots. Now they're not sure as to whether the individual shot and killed the female victim in the back of the house at this point. Officers retreated a little bit and took cover when the gunshots were fired because they believed it was being fired at them. They set up a perimeter, made entry into the home, and discovered that the female was deceased in the back room. The male suspect had climbed through a window and fled northbound. One of our crime scene specialists actually spotted him in the area of 2nd Street and Griegos a short time later. So we had Air 2 up for several hours looking for the individual. We're still searching for him right now, and we've known who he is because he was the registered, I don't know if he's the owner or there's just the responsible party at this house on San Clemente, but his name is Julius, Julius Falero, Frank, Alero, Falero. His date of birth is 1/24/03, and as soon as I get back upstairs, I'll send out the intelligence bulletin that we put out on him to other law enforcement this morning. We are searching for leads right now. We're searching for him, but we did want to put his information out there to let everyone know that this is the individual that is suspected of shooting what turns out to be his ex-girlfriend.
Mr. Falero, does he have a criminal history?
He does. He has an active felony warrant for a violent crime that happened recently. I think at his workplace, he shot an individual a couple times, so there was a felony warrant out for his arrest.
And for clarification's sake, so officers were not fired upon, or?
It doesn't appear, but we're still investigating. That was their initial instinct, is that they heard the gunshots and believed maybe they were being fired upon. They were at the front door of the residence, and like I said, they retreated, took cover behind a vehicle, and when they eventually got in there, they found the female deceased. So it's possible he shot the female and then escaped through the room, but we're just not sure. I think there was more than one shot fired.
And Mr. Falero has an active warrant out for his arrest
He does.
for another murder.
Not for a murder, it was a shooting with injury.
Is he still believed to be armed and dangerous at this time?
Yeah, I would presume him to be armed and dangerous. I don't know that they found a gun at the scene, but when he left, they did consider him to be armed and dangerous.
Is there a general area that police may believe that he's at, or anywhere that he might frequent?
I can't discuss that at this point. I can say that the address at San Clemente was the address where he resided. My understanding is he and the ex-girlfriend were living together and just recently split up. For some reason, I think the violence or threats started last night into this morning, and someone called police who was concerned about the female.
Just with these 4 homicides in the last 24 hours, just do you guys know the updated figures for homicides this year?
So we are currently at 41 homicide investigations, 44 homicide victims for the year. That compares to about 51, I think, or 52 last year at this time. So we have had some kind of lower than normal months this year, but we were concerned. We know that last year at this time, homicides really started to spike in May, June, July, August. So even though we had fewer last month, we're always preparing for these sorts of incidents where, unfortunately, and I think the one trend that still keeps going up is, I started to count before I came out here, but I want to say in the mid 95%, about 95% of homicides have been involved with firearms this year. So 5 years ago, that was like 70% and 80%, and now it's pretty consistently over 90% of the homicides are being committed by firearms, which suggests that we're seeing in many of these incidents, disputes or confrontations escalate very quickly, and if a firearm's involved, it's often used to deadly effect. Okay. Cool. So I'll send out that intelligence bulletin. It has the picture of Mr. Falero and any help we can get to try to find him. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.